amigos are we, brother to brother and everyone, a brave amigo. Wherever they need us, our destinies lead us, amigos, we're always together.
Hello and welcome to episode 9 of the 3 Amigos FPL show. This week we are focusing on helping all the wildcarders out there, planning for the blanks and doubles to come, as well, of course, looking at the game week 32 fixtures and beyond. I'm your host, FPL Marple, and alongside me, as always, are my amigos Marz and Dale. Tonight we're joined by honorary amigo, the FPLcoach. So tell us, Coach, you're very welcome back on the 3 Amigos show, and tell us how was game week 31 and how is the season progressing since we last spoke?
Hi, Donica. Hi, guys. Thanks for having me on the show again. Well, game week 31 was one to forget for me a little bit, really. Well, no, having said that, I actually put together quite a good team. I decided to max out and try and get as many players as possible. So I actually had 10 players going into it. And I was set up quite nicely. And then I think about half an hour before the deadline, had a masterstroke move to think, do you know what, let's move the captaincy off Salah and put it on Stanislas.
I was wondering if I wasn't 100% sure, but I had a feeling that you were one of those people that I saw the picture coming up of, I think I've made a big mistake. And this was before Stanislas scored. And,
correct. Yeah. So then
when
after
he scored,
that,
then everyone was on vindication. Yeah.
Absolutely. So yeah, I was quite pleased. And then 2 minutes into the Liverpool game, it was like instant regret.
What have I thought,
you know, if perhaps Watford have held out for the first half an hour or so, and then Salah had scored, then he may not have gone on to do exactly what he did. I mean, I didn't even watch the game. I was out that night, so I didn't even see any of it. But, you know, just watching the scores come through on my phone, I was just devastated. But at the end of the day, I still actually managed to score a 93, which is decent and is actually probably about 20 points higher than half my mini league that are above me. But it's just what might have been, isn't it? Having not captained Salah when I definitely should have captained Salah, especially when I've done it so many times this season as well.
Yeah, that would have been a fantastic game week. I mean, I finished in 82 with Captain Salah. Now I only had, I think I had 9 going into the game week, but 3 of them only started from the bench and they didn't do anything. You know, Salah saved the game week for me, but 93 is a great score without Salah as captain. Yeah, I hate that. That's one thing I've avoided this season, and as much as the season's been bad, I've avoided doing the late captaincy changes. I've kind of just said it at the start of the week and I've left it, and it generally has worked out all right. And definitely what I would have thought to change it to hasn't worked out. So yeah, no, all good. But Dale is going to be with us shortly. He's just finishing up work. So I'll switch over to Marzi. Marzi, how was game week 31 for yourself? Tell me all about it.
Yeah. It wasn't too bad. I ended up with 90 points. I actually had 11 players, and I captained Salah. So 93 is not bad with 10 players. Apart from the Liverpool boys, to be honest, the rest were nothing. So I'm glad I didn't use my free hit. I basically planned my team all the way through, as I mentioned on the last pod. And the planning actually worked against me in a way, because I would have brought Stanislas in if I could. But I had playing midfielders all the way, so I wasn't going to take any of them out to bring in Stanislas. So yeah, it was all right. I was happy with the score.
Oh, well, once you're happy, I'm happy, Marzi. Lads, want to actually give a shout out to the listeners, just to let them know about the Getting to Know You podcast. I'm sure most of them will know all about them, but most recent of which went out at the weekend, and that features Sam El Masri and Alex Ball, who you all know, of course, as at OzFPL and at Alex Waterbaby. They're not game week specific, so they can be enjoyed anytime. So stay tuned, listeners, for a new episode of it to drop over the next couple of days. Let's move on to section number 1, which is, of course, Marz's talking point of the week. It's a point we look forward to each podcast, when Marz tells us what has grabbed his attention from the past game week, or possibly what he saw at the lunch counter at work.
Well, there's a couple this week. So first one is bad boys. What you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? I mean, listen, City's already scared about us doing flares and complaining. I mean, all they've done basically is rile the Liverpool fans even more. I mean, look, City have fans that have been there even in the second division, so all my respect to them. But if you look at if we're comparing atmospheres between City and Anfield, you know, they had an Anfield. You can't really compare the two. But at the end of the day, what's going to matter most is what happens on the pitch, right? So let's see what happens. But I just think it's a bit silly, isn't it? Really,
it is. But I'll ignore all that noise. I'm looking forward to a great fixture. Should be brilliant.
It's going to be a great fixture.
Legs.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It reminds me of the days when Liverpool versus Chelsea was the big one, of course, in the Champions League, and we were kept on coming up against each other. If we both keep on going as we are, then I can see that happening for a few years to come, that Liverpool and City could keep on going up against each other. And it should be great. Both teams, of course, play brilliant football, so let's look forward to it.
Yeah.
Cut out the nonsense. Isn't that it, Marzi?
Exactly. And then the second talking point. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. No fixtures, no cry. No fixtures, no cry. Say, I remember when FPL managers had a January wildcard, we waited for transfers on January 31st at midnight. No fixtures, no cry. Everything's going to be all right. Can we stop stressing about the fixtures now? Like, they're going to come out soon, yeah? So just chill, relax, and enjoy the break.
I saw the poem, Marz, earlier on Twitter, and I was going... I can just, he's going to say that on the podcast. Did you have a go at doing the poem of the day?
I didn't have a go at a poem, I'm afraid, no, but I did have a bit of a chuckle reading through some of them. Some of them, we got some very good writers, bit of talent knocking around in the poetry corner, I think.
One of them's on this podcast with you, and the other one, let's just say, we won't say anything more about Marzi's effort. But
I'm just glad. I'm just having read what Dale just put on Twitter. I'm just glad he's not the one singing.
Yeah, but it's not a song as such, Marz. You know, I was going to go with the Venga Boys, "Boom Boom Boom Boom." I want you in my room. You know that song. But I changed it around because at the end of the day, it's poetry, not singing. But you'll try to sing anything as we found. Yeah, you'll try to sing anything at all, even recipes. Yeah. You should go on Dale's show actually and sing his recipe for him as he's doing it. Could be an idea, Dale. Lads, we'll move on quickly to the community topics. And this is where we, of course, discuss all of the big talking points in the Twitter and Reddit communities. The one thing on everyone's mind right now is, of course, wildcards. And with blank game week 31 out of the way and the game week 35 blanks confirmed, the final stretch is a little bit clearer to see. Of course, we'll have to wait and see exactly when those doubles will be confirmed later on in the week, hopefully. But just to give a quick rundown of the teams with doubles and without doubles. Basically, we have Brighton, Chelsea, Leicester, Man U, Southampton and Spurs, who all have 2 doubles and all blank in game week 35. Then we have Arsenal, Bournemouth, Burnley, Huddersfield, Man City, Newcastle, Swansea and West Ham, all which have 1 double. Of those, Huddersfield and Bournemouth, or both of them, will blank in game week 35. And the following teams don't have any doubles at all or blanks. That's Liverpool, Everton, Palace, Stoke, West Brom and Watford. First of all, lads, let's look at the teams from that bottom group, so those without any doubles. For those wildcarding this week, of course, everyone is trying to basically set up their team as best they can for the closing stages. From those teams without any doubles, who are you planning? I'll come to you, Coach, first on it. Who are you planning on keeping in that wildcard team, or kind of planning to get into your team in the next couple of game weeks? We'll obviously leave Liverpool out of the grouping because they obviously merit Salah, even Firmino we'll talk about later on. But Salah is obviously somebody that double game week or no double game week, he's going to be staying in everyone's team.
So I don't actually fall into that category. So I've already used my wild card. So personally, I'm stuck with a few of the, let's say, the deadwood players that most others are fortunate to be able to get rid of. Yeah. But looking going forward, basically, I'm looking to transfer as many of them out as possible. So I'm willing to take a 4 hit per week to try and get more double game week players in, ready for game week 34. Like you say, the exception is Liverpool, really. I'm happy Liverpool play Bournemouth at home in game week 34, and I think they could easily score as many, if not more, points than some of the double game week players. So I think I'm still going to be carrying 3 Liverpool players into game week 34. But then whether I'll still have 1 or 2 knocking around, I'm not entirely sure from the other teams, but they won't really be wanted. And if you've got a wild card, then I really think you should be prioritising the moving towards double game weekers, which seems already like the tactic. We've seen a lot of people on Twitter sharing their teams, and it seems like it's the tactic that people are going with.
Yeah, it is. How about yourself, Marz? Is there anyone from them teams, from Everton, Palace, Stoke, West Brom, Watford, who you think is worthy of either keeping around or getting into your team?
Honestly, as I have a wild card and a free hit, no. I'm not looking at any of those players. If I didn't have a wild card or a free hit, just like Coach, I would consider some of those players. But because I do, I'm not looking at any of those players.
Lads, let's move on to the next group of teams, which is, of course, the ones who have 1 double game week. Marzi, I'll come to you first on this one. Arsenal, Bournemouth, Burnley, Huddersfield, Man City, Newcastle, Swansea, West Ham. So in your wild card, looking at it now, how many players are we looking at from that group?
So let's go through per team, yeah. So Arsenal is a team that I'm definitely looking at. Need to be careful with the rotation with Europa, but Boomerang is definitely somebody who's already in my wild card team. Brought him in to catch any price rises, which I did. He had a couple already, and most likely he will stay. They've got good fixtures. He doesn't play in Europa. He's got a double, so why not? Then if I look at the others, Burnley probably a defender, and maybe one of their strikers like Barnes. If I decide to go 3-5-2 with a good third striker that will sit, if I decide to bench boost in game week 34, it really depends on the fixtures and how it all pans out. Other options, you've got Swansea and Newcastle. I think they have some really good options in there. Again, for fillers for your wild card. So Fabianski could be a great second keeper, or first, depending if you want to go with 2 cheap keepers. I've seen some wild card teams like that. Even their defenders, for Newton, Norton, Van der Horn, he's quite cheap. Swansea are quite strong and good at home, and these guys can also get some goals. I probably wouldn't spend the money on Mawson just because I think it's a bit too much when you can have Norton or Van der Horn for about 0.7 or 0.6 less than him. In the midfield, you can go with Key or even Klukas, really. Or I've seen King as well. He's quite cheap, 4.2. Why not? As a 5th midfielder, he's playing regularly. Newcastle is a team that interests me. I really like. So their fixtures are not too bad, especially the way I'm looking at it is between 32 up to 34. I'm not even thinking about 35 because I'm free hitting, so I don't even look at that. And then it's after that, and then between 35 to 37, I have another 2 free transfers to do. So depending on when how the fixtures come out, if Newcastle have got a double game week fixture in 34, then I'm looking at one, potentially 2 players. So I'm looking at Dummett or Lesser at the back, and Kennedy. Kennedy really interests me. I really like him. And they've got Huddersfield in game week 32 at home. That could be a good fixture. Newcastle's still not 100% safe, so I can see them capitalising on that. So Newcastle and Bournemouth could have the double game week fixtures either in 34 or 37. If Bournemouth have the double game week fixture in 34, then some people who don't have a wild card and have some of their players from the free hit or from the game week 31, absolutely keep them. So I'm looking at Stanislas, obviously. Maybe a defender, even though Bournemouth are pretty awful. I might just stick with just Stanislas, to be honest. I'll probably stay away from Wilson. He's joining the Troy Deeney club of players that I don't like now. King seems to be injured or not playing. Then what I'll do is whichever team plays first, the then I'll swap their players for the 37, or depending on who I need in my team. I mean, West Ham are in trouble. There's no two ways of looking at it. They are in trouble. I'm definitely staying away from their defenders and keepers. I don't like any of them, but I definitely like Arnie. And they've got, I think I saw a tweet from Fly which makes sense, basically saying they're playing Southampton, who have got an eye on the cup. He's playing his old team, Stoke, and then they've got Chelsea as well. It's a derby, and West Ham have already beaten Chelsea this season. So, and Arnie's their main player. City are the ones that I'm watching at the moment and potentially staying away, just because they've got, you've got the Champions League, you've got the derby, and I don't know who's going to play. What I might do is watch them and then see what happens in 37 for game week 37 and bring some of their players in then.
Good stuff. Thanks a million, Marz. Dale, welcome to the show. You're late home from work, but thanks a million for joining us. Yeah, tell us quickly, give us your game week 31 recap, and I'll move on to asking you. You can tell us your analysis of the doubles, as we're calling them, for the wildcard planners.
In a nutshell, I think Captain Salah, so it's not worth talking about.
Yeah, may as well leave it at that. But tell us where we've talked about, Dale. We've talked about there with the teams who have no doubles, the teams who have one double. And now we're going to move on to the teams who have two doubles, and all of which, of course, will blank in game week 35. That's Brighton, Chelsea, Leicester, Man U, Southampton and Spurs. How many players do you think really should people be concentrating on getting in as many of these players at these teams as possible? Like even if they're Brighton or Chelsea, who aren't in great form. What's your thoughts on this?
So yeah, I wouldn't if I was wildcarded, I wouldn't put a squad of 15 just because of the sake of one extra game, because you've seen players like Salah can outscore someone who's probably got 3 or 4 games, to be honest. Let's be honest. So I wouldn't over focus on it. I'd be putting the best team I could together. I'm probably going to have about 12, and I'm not on a wildcard, so just because they've got one extra game, yeah, it's great, but they might only score 1 extra point. So there's no point in gimping your team for the sake of 1 extra game. Like I say, I'm looking about 12. So if I was wildcarding, I'd probably be looking about 12, 13. Obviously, you've got to have Salah, or you've got to have some Liverpool representation, because Liverpool's fixtures are pretty good.
One thing is, I've seen a lot of people talking Marz. Vardy is obviously a very popular choice. People, looking for their long-term Kane replacement with 2 doubles. He's looking like he could even be a good triple captain option down the line a little bit for one of the double game weeks. Like, what's your thoughts on, say, Marz or even the Man United options? Have you any notion of looking at Sanchez, for example, or
Sanchez? No, not at all. I have got Man United options. I'm considering a couple of things with Man United. I definitely want De Gea. I mean, I've seen that goalkeeper graphic on Twitter today, but I didn't really agree with it. Just sign De Gea, his clean sheet's guaranteed. You look at his points per game, it's like, is it about 4.9 per game? That's is up there with the best keepers in the game. When it comes to that. I'm also looking at how do you say it? Barley? I don't know how you say it. The African defender they've got.
Bailly.
Bailly, that's it. Yeah, I'm looking at him. And I'm also looking at Rashford. Everyone's like, oh, but you've got to be wary of the rotation. But I'm sure I saw a tweet the other day saying that it actually played the most games under Mourinho of any player. So I'm looking at him. Marz, he's an interesting one. Now, I'm not signing players because they've got a double-double. At the end of the day, right, they've either got 8 games or they've got 7. I'm not looking at it like that. I mean, if you've got chips, then yeah, you probably are looking at it like that. But I've only got bench boost, which I'm probably going to use in 34. But this is like the danger of over-focusing on a player because he's got 2 double game weeks, but he's still got 8 fixtures, so you got I'll look at it like that rather than a double-double. On Marz, he wants that big move. I think he keeps playing till the end of the season. I think Leicester are probably going to stop playing a bit because they're not going to get relegated, and they're probably not going to get any much higher than they are. I think they're the 9th.
They're around about there, yeah.
Yeah, so they're not going to do much more, but they're not going to go down. But Marz will keep playing because he wants that moved. So he probably makes Vardy a good option as well because he wants that World Cup berth.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see what Marz and Vardy do, because I definitely see a lot of people getting them in. Tell us, Coach, what's your thoughts on this group? Are you planning on maxing out on the group of doubles?
I'm definitely focusing my attention more towards those guys, especially because I don't have the wildcard. So I'll be working towards getting some double game week guys in 34, but focusing more on the ones that have the ones in 37 as well. It depends about the Jones situation for me, but ideally I'd like Phil Jones back in my team. So I could have a double United defence. That did me quite well a few weeks ago when most people just had De Gea or Jones. I only had one, whereas the differential for me was having a double up on United defence. My biggest concern, especially around if we call them doubles, is the concern around pointless fixtures. So the old cliche of teams being on the beach and nothing to play for, and that's going to be potentially very apparent in game week 37. So there's that chance that some teams just aren't going to bother and not going to turn up in the way that they may do earlier on in the season. And then obviously 37 comes not long after the FA. It's around the FA Cup fixtures as well. So is there going to be some rotation around there? Maybe some teams in Europe still as well. So there may be some rotation again. So that's just something else that I've got my eye on. But as a general rule, I would say yes, especially for I'm aiming for teams that are going to have a double game week in 37, because I haven't really got the capacity to get a maximum to max out my team for game week 34. But I'll be in a very similar situation to Dale in that respect. I'll be looking to get 12 players or so in by 37 that will have a double game week.
With us, who have burnt our wildcard, we are kind of having to plan for a game week or a period of games, and you kind of have to take a couple of hits, or you need to sacrifice a little bit at some point in between.
I've been planning for this since like game week 26. So,
let's hope you have an absolute whopper of a game week, so you won't have any excuses anyway.
I had a Bamiyang before it was cool.
You did, yeah. You made him cool, sure. But you made actually a very good point there. Was to do with the looking at it as, they've all got 8 games left, and if you look at them, they've 8 games left. The ones that have doubles, they've if you looked at it as being a percentage of how much extra playing time they have, it's not worth. At this point of the season, if you're making your changes now or you're wildcarding right now, you do have to look at the amount extra they have as a kind of percentage. And because you're planning on keeping them around for those double game weeks and riding them out through the blank game weeks, presuming you don't have a free hit chip like our genius Marz there, is that it is only one extra game and there's no guarantee they won't all do a Gabbiadini on it. We'll move on to our listeners' questions. We got a ton of them this week, so we want to spend a little bit of time at them. First up, I'm going to come to you, Coach, on this one, is we're talking triple captains. Is it a must to triple captain on a double game week, given Salah has shown that he only needs a single to wipe the floor with everyone else? Mark at _mbison22 and John Grifters at Grifters United was asking about this. And John added his thoughts re Vardy in game week 37 as a possible triple captain option. But are there any other fixture or player combos coming up that you like the look of, Coach?
So yes is the answer to that. I think because, like I already said before, is that I focused a lot of attention on game week 31 with having the intention of having 9 to 10 double game week players in 34. So I'm actually going to triple captain in 34. And my secret weapon, which is not so secret anymore, Aubameyang, because everyone seems to have him in their team since Harry Kane got injured. Newcastle and Leicester away in game week 34, and I'm in a position where I'm part of the chasing pack anyway, so it was going to be a bit of a differential captain for me that week, not quite as much of a differential captain as Stanislas this week, but I thought that was a good opportunity to get some ground back. So that's definitely an option. That's the one I'm going with. I can absolutely understand where people are coming from when they say, obviously, Salah hit whatever he did this week, 29 points in one game week. But it's so hard to predict a score like that. They come so few and far between. And personally, I would always look to focus on the potential of 2 games over 1 game, especially for one of my precious chips. It's all well and good saying that he scored well in a single game week, but it's all good in hindsight. But we've also got great examples of double game week players hitting mega scores, like when we had the game week where Aguero and Sanchez both hit 25 plus points. So for me, I think that there's arguments for both ways, but personally I like the potential of having more points from 2 games over just a single. I think in terms of players, probably we've already mentioned Vardy as a triple captain option, but then obviously there's the potential that Kane may be back by that sort of time, game week 37. So both of those could be excellent options if you are looking to triple captain in 37, which is where I've seen most people go. But for me personally, because I don't have the wild card, I'm aiming to get 9 or 10 double game week players in for 34, free hit in 35, and then max out as many double game week players in 37. I may even look to ditch Salah. Because there'll only be 2 games left at that point, and so why not take a gamble on someone who does have a good double game week? Maybe bring in like Ericsson or someone like that, just to shake things up a little bit.
Fortune favours the brave, coach, or it kicks you in the arse. We'll see which one that does when you do it. Thanks a million. Listen, Dale, we'll move on to the next one, which is we got a bunch of requests to name 1 or 2 must-own players from each position for the next few game weeks. Now, we're leaving out Salah, obviously, out of this because even the coach there, when he was being really brave, was talking about doing it in game week 37. So, listen, leave him out of the equation and give us a couple of players from each position that you really like for the next couple of game weeks. Those questions are coming to us from Mr. Walker Porter and Planner at FPL_Planner and John L. Thompson, so at John English.
I have already mentioned a couple already, but De Gea for goalkeeper most definitely. That needs no explanation. Fabianski for the budget keepers gets a lot of saves.
Fabianski, you have to say, I think.
Yeah, he gets a lot of saves, but I mean his fixtures aren't the best. I mean Man United next, then West Brom, Everton, possible clean sheets there. But then they've got City and Chelsea, so yeah. So yeah, defenders, you're looking at United defence most definitely. Burnley defence looks pretty sweet as well because their fixtures are good. Whether you go with Ben Mee or who everyone seems to have, or you go for one of the fullbacks like is it Tarkowski and what was the other lad? Is it Ward? Stephen Ward.
Lowton as well.
Lowton, yeah, that's the one. So that, there's a few to pick from there. You could even argue for their keepers, to be fair, as well, but. Again, you don't know if it's going to be Pope or if it's going to be Heaton. Midfield is where it's tasty for me. I've seen a lot of people not wanting to get Son in right now because of his fixtures, but do you know what? I actually really, even though they're playing Chelsea, I actually really like that fixture. I think Chelsea are horrid at the minute. They can't keep a clean sheet. And we all remember this time last year when Son replaced Kane because he did his ankle and was absolutely on fire. So I'm getting Son now. I will say that. You've got Marz, who we've mentioned. I don't really fancy Sanchez at all. Arsenal, I want Ramsey to see whether he's going to get back in the team. He seems to be wrestling for the Europa League, which is a pain. But if he's going to get a run of fixtures, then he's a nice little differential to have. And obviously Salah, I don't need to talk about him. Strikers is an hard one. I mean, Aubameyang we've mentioned. Strikers is a really hard one. I'm probably going the other way to everyone else. All the wildcards I've seen on Twitter have got the big three up front, and it's Aubameyang, Lukaku, and I don't know, Firmino. It's those three or a variation with like another big hitter. And I'm probably going to go the other way. I'm keeping Aubameyang, but I've got Chris Wood, and I'm probably going to sell Firmino for someone either like Rashford or maybe even Charlie Austin. I really like Charlie Austin. Southampton's fixtures aren't great, but they've just got Mark Hughes in as manager, who, by the way, I think is an absolute fraud. But it's a new manager effect, and Charlie Austin can score against anyone. We all remember that season he had for QPR where it was insane. So yeah, he's like, I think he's 5.8 million. Like someone like that it gives you more funds to put elsewhere. So yeah, strikers wise, I'll be looking at differentials. I won't be going a big three, but each to their own.
Yeah, I like it, Dale. I have that front three, but I don't know. I just like the look of it, and I think when I saw Mooney and I saw Wilson sitting there beside Firmino for the last 2 game weeks. So I think I just wanted to spice up my life a little bit.
It is sexy. Having that front three is absolutely sexy. I had the big front three early on in the season. I had Kane, Aguero, and I think it was Morata. I'm sure it was those three. But I had a big front three anyway. And, it is sexy, but the most success I've had this season is when I've gone massive in midfield, and that's what I'm going to do for the final stretch of games.
I think the important thing here is that you have to, especially if you're bench boosting, you need to balance your team out, right?
Yeah, that's it.
A lot of the times that what I've seen and what I've done is we go big, and then you have bench boost that gets you about 6 points, 8 points if you're lucky. What I'm trying to do different this time is spread the love around the team. If I go Lukaku, Firmino, and Boomerang and swap Firmino, let's say in the double game week, I'm really, really affecting my defense. And I'm not saying spend too much. I would love to see what your defense looks like, Don, with those three up front, or your midfield, because somewhere you have to cut the budget at some stage.
Yeah, where I am, lads, I'll tell you, I have in defence, I have Valencia, Nocton, Lascelles, De Gea in goal. I have Zaha, Son, Salah in midfield with Van La Parra and Chamberlain. Don't ask me about the Ox, but he's there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I'll cut my cloth, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you've got 2 big midfielders, and the other 3 are, Zaha's cheap, and the other 2, let's not discuss them too much. So that's my point. What Dale was saying is absolutely right. I think the goals and the money and the difference is in the midfield. My only issue at the moment is I'm seeing everybody has the same midfield, and it's not a surprise because the big teams have got the most amazing midfielders. So it's all about a balance. It's really going to be a balancing act, and where do you want to spread the money? And definitely the front three is an option that you mentioned: Lukaku, Aubameyang, and Firmino, or whoever you go with.
I think what you said there as well, Marz. I think what you said there is really good, because it depends. If you're saying everyone's got the same team, then we're just going to have a template team and no one's going to go anywhere. So you need to find this difference as well. So if we've all got the same front three, then you're not going to get any advantage from that unless you captain a different one than everyone else does. But it's not what the game's about, is it? It's trying to get one over on your mates and pick out that player that might that might score the big points that other people hadn't perhaps anticipated. And that's why we're the guys who listen to podcasts like this and go on podcasts like this and have such a passion for the game, because we're the ones trying to chase that different player who can get us that one-off big score, and yeah. For me, there's no fun in having that template team and having everyone the same as everyone else. So yeah, I think it's great to go for a player like Charlie Austin, maybe not Charlie Austin himself, but a player like Charlie Austin.
Exactly, yeah. We'll move on to Firmino. Marzi, coming to you on this. Joseph Allegretti at J Allegretti was talking about Bobby Firmino, and he was asking how long can he be kept without a double game week. Ryan Hobbs at FBL Hobbs was also wondering about possibly getting in Vardy for Firmino, and FBLJ at FBLJ was also potentially looking at Lukaku and wondering if he is worthy of all the wildcard hype. So what's your thoughts on Firmino as a potentially undroppable player at his price tag?
Look, we mentioned Liverpool already, and the attack is one of the best. if you look at the fixtures, they've got Palace away, which is really one of the dodgiest fixtures for Liverpool. I've seen a lot of captains on Salah. I can understand why, but I might be going somewhere different just because I'm scared of Palace. Then you've got Everton, so big derby. Then Bournemouth at home in double game week 34. So looking at this, I think you could make a case for removing Firmino and getting somebody like Vardy or Lukaku or a double game week player. Or what you could also do, which is what I'm thinking about doing, is keeping Firmino until the double game week and then taking him out. We also have to remember that between the derby and the double game week, there's the big Champions League game. So is Klopp going to rotate? I hope not, but he's done it before. So we need to watch that out for Firmino, Liverpool players and City players. So
Brilliant.
Is Firmino droppable? Yes.
I like it. Thanks, Marz. Next question up, Coach, is Man United, Chelsea and Son. I've lumped them together, so there's like a triple header of questions for you. Kev Sears is thinking that the strength of Man United is in their defence, and therefore he's wondering, is double Man United defenders a bad idea? I know it's something you were keen on. Or should someone like Rashford be included in the conversation? And also Prashant at FPL_Prashant was asking, is Asby a stick or twist player? And if he is a twist, who should actually come in for him? He already has Robbo. Last little bit of the questions is from Prashant, and he was asking himself and Stephen Toomey were asking whether Son is a must-own player for the foreseeable. We've kind of touched on him a little bit, but I'll get your thoughts now.
Rashford, definitely. I saw the same stats that Dale was talking about earlier on. Apparently Rashford has had more minutes under Mourinho than any other United player. I was pretty astounded by that, to be honest. But I think he's definitely a rotation risk, and I think Mourinho likes to protect him. But the data is there to say that he's been selected by Mourinho more time than any other player, so that's fair enough. And agree with the United double defence. If the only thing at the moment is which players are absolutely nailed on, it's a shame that Ashley Young is obviously classified as a midfielder, so it pretty much rules him out of the scenario. And then you don't know which of the players are actually going to definitely play. Phil Jones, for me, when he was playing, was a strong, reliable pick for a good price as well. Smalling's in there now, Bailly's in there, but we just don't know when Jones is back, whether he goes straight back in the team or what. So I don't really know, to be honest. Valencia was obviously a very reliable pick, but if you're having him and De Gea, that's a big outlay on two United defenders, I'd say. In terms of Chelsea, I think they've looked a bit better the last couple of games, but sticking with a defender, the only thing with sticking with a defender is that with Chelsea in particular, is that their prices have gone up. So a player like Azpilicueta or Alonso, if you're not planning on getting them back later on, then absolutely you can get rid of them. That's, I would say that their time's come, especially with the next couple 2-3 weeks fixtures. But if you want them back for those double game weeks, then I'd definitely hold on to them. You got Giroud and Morata up front, so that's a bit of competition there. So you don't know who's going to play out of those two. And then obviously I'm seeing a lot of teams already with Willian in, and Willian's a great pick. He's good value, so I think he's a decent player. And I think he's one that a lot of people will be considering. And then Spurs, Son, but I suppose you could class Eriksen and Ali in there as well. But I'd say that Son's the most explosive and the most exciting pick. Eriksen's a bit more reliable. Ali's a big game player. But I think with those guys, there's perhaps the potential of a lot of rotation as well. All three of those teams are still in the FA Cup as well, so I'm expecting some rotation around there as well. But in terms of defence, I'd say these teams are all viable. Yeah, I would agree.
Sound as pound, Coach. Next question, Marz, is strategy. So we're talking wildcard, no free hit. So if people with wildcards but no free hit chips. What is the best strategy for those without the free hit? Jazze Banema was asking, they've saying they're the wildcard activated. They're trying to reap some price rises. Now that's one of those debatable ones, whether or not price rises are majorly worth it, especially if you're trying to play the stock market. But tell Jazze any kind of strategy advice for those without the free hit.
Yeah, you need to focus on teams that have got a double game week and then play in 35. So you're looking at teams like Arsenal, City, Burnley, Newcastle, Swansea, West Ham. That's not a bad bunch. So what you need to do from now with your wild card is get players from these teams, because then you have up until 35 without the free hit. And then you can plan after that to the second double game week.
Dale, next up is strategy. So with neither a wild card or a free hit chip. So I gave this question to you because I know you're in this boat. Sniper at Frank Walsh 82 was asking, who would be your top 4 players to bring in before double game week 34? So in any position. So similarly kind of question to what you were giving earlier on. You probably gave your top 4 from your list that you gave us with your favorite players by position. But if you had 4 transfers to go for, who would you be prioritizing?
De Gea, Son, Marz, and Aubameyang.
Good stuff. And Stephen Toomey at 6 goal was he was asking how many double game weeks to field in double game week 34. So how many are you thinking you're going to have for 34, or have you worked that out yet? Have you any estimates?
I could have 12 without taking a hit, so I'm definitely going to have 12. Now I can take a hit and get a full 15 and use my bench boost, but I'm just debating whether that's even worth it.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Thanks, Mildale. Marz, move on to another strategy question. So those with the free hit chip. So rich people like yourself. Ricky Saunders at Ricky Saunders 77. In addition to asking Firmino and Lukaku, which we answered earlier, he has his wildcard active right now and still has his free hit chip. His question is basically, do you go with 3 top strikers or 5 top mids? So continuation kind of what we were talking about earlier on in terms of the prioritizing where to put the cash.
Yeah, I think, I said it before, it's all about the balance. It depends what you classify as 3 top strikers. Do you classify Vardy as a top striker? Because for me he is, but he's actually cheaper than Lukaku, cheaper than Firmino. He's the cheapest out of the top. So you can still have 2 premium strikers plus Vardy, who's a really good striker, and have balance across your team. I've said it before. Midfield is where the goals, where the game could be won, actually, or the game week can be won. There's a lot of good midfielders. So I'm between 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. If I go 3-5-2, then my third forward will probably be a cheaper forward, so I can spend more money in midfield. If I go 3-4-3, then my third forward will be more like a Vardy versus a Barnes, for example. So I think that's the best way of looking at it, the balance across your team.
Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Marz. Coach, actually, the next question is kind of a bit of a follow-on to what Marz mentioned there in terms of formations. Stephen T was wondering about them. He was wondering which formation to go for, considering the injuries and form like to key players like Kane and so on. And also Richard Skean at Jones, some pundit, and Roop Kiran 16 are frustrated by the uncertainty in these remaining game weeks. So Rubicon was wondering, if the blanks are shunted to 37, does 34 then become triple captain material? Now, I know you mentioned this earlier on, and I do believe, did you say you're kind of considering Aubameyang for game week 34 as your triple captain? And also, like, what formation do you think you'll be kind of going with for the foreseeable?
It looks to me personally as though I will be using Aubameyang as my triple captain in 34 to then max out and bench boost in 37. That's my tactic. I personally, I've always been a fan of 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. I mix between the two at different points in the season. I usually do it based on finding a fifth midfielder that I think adds excellent value. A player that I've got my eye on at the moment. He's only got the one double game week himself, but Kennedy for Newcastle, he's looked decent the last few weeks, and he could be the kind of player. I think he's under 5 million, and he was at 4.7 million last time I looked, but he might have gone up since then. But he's definitely a player who could make that fifth midfielder and have a double game week and get potentially good points and negate the need for a third striker. It might be the route that I go down because for my personal team, because I've got Meunier, who's going to have that double game week potentially in 37. That's what I'm expecting. So I may keep him in my team around, and then I'll have him as a double game week player going forward into 37 already in my team. So I don't have to worry about that position. That's already taken care of, ready for a double game week down the line. But yeah, I think personally I'd stick with 3-4-3 or 3-5-2. And because although obviously you get a clean sheet, you get 6 points for a clean sheet for a defender or a goalkeeper, I think that the potential of attacking points is better than relying on defenders. And also as well, something that I have noticed is that normally in the Premier League, big teams have a strong finish. So from Christmas onwards, like the top teams at the top four, at the top of the table, they tend to tighten up at the back and get more defensive and not concede as many goals towards the end of the season. But that doesn't really seem to be happening this season. So I don't necessarily think there's as much value in defence in some of these teams as there has been over the years. I don't know if you think the same.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But the other thing, what you said is absolutely right, by the way. We're lucky that there is 4 teams still fighting for 3 spots, right? And that's lucky for us. You've got Liverpool, Chelsea, Spurs, and United, if we count Arsenal out, fighting for those spots. And they will keep going until the end because I think it's going to go all the way to the wire.
Yeah, true. Thanks a million. Thanks, Marzan. Thanks, Coach. Marzi, next question up is to do with rotation. So John L. Thompson and John Ingerbert, his second question from him was asking for our thoughts on rotation in the Premier League for Liverpool and Arsenal. Quickly, do you think he should include Mkhitaryan, Monreal, Firmino, Robertson, and so on in our wildcards? I'd imagine Van Dijk will be included in that as well.
If you have the wild card, then Robertson and Van Dijk should be going because they don't have double game weeks, and there's defenders in the same price range that have a double game week. That's my first opinion. Regarding rotation, I mentioned already Liverpool with the Champions League and the Derby. So these are 3 big games, the Derby and the 2 legs. Will there be rotation? I hope not. As a Liverpool fan, I don't know. I hope he puts the best team out to win a game and then take the players off rather than resting. Arsenal is a different story. We know Boomerang is not playing in Europe, so he's not going to be rotated. However, as Dale mentioned already, and we touched on it, people like Ramsey being rested, Mkhitaryan is playing in Europe, and the further they go, why wouldn't he not rest it? I mean, let's be honest. We already said they're not going to get top 4. Why risk him? He can put other midfielders in the Premier League. I've got my eye on Monreal because I like him as a player and with attacking potential. But I'm going to be watching, seeing what Arsenal do and how far they go in Europa to decide what I'll do with Monreal. So watch out for Arsenal. Liverpool out for me up to double game week 34 and then swap players.
Good stuff. Thanks a million, Marz. Dale, last one of our listener questions was Mohutsu was asking a defensive question. And he was just wondering, basically, as Marz mentioned there, to do with Arsenal. He's wondering, is it worth dropping Arsenal defenders for similarly out of form Chelsea ones as they have the double-double? Or is it better yet to go for a United double-up or a double-double-double for better chances of scoring points? What do you think is the safest Man City defenders as well? So Mohutsu was all defensive this game week.
So, I mean, I wouldn't be swapping Arsenal defenders for Chelsea defenders. No way. I think with this question, it's touching on, you can apply this to like every position as well. It's touching on something I've said. Arsenal and Chelsea and United all have 8 games left. So you just, to a point, you disregard, unless you like got your free hit or whatever, you disregard the fact that they've got a double or whatever. They've got 8 games. If you're bringing in those types of players, they're premium players, you're probably going to keep them from now till game week 38. So what you do is you look at who you think's going to perform the best over the next 8 weeks. I mean, if I had to choose, it'd be Arsenal and United defenders. But with the Arsenal defenders, it's who's going to play, because they're going to be playing for the Europa League. So yeah, that's how I'd be looking at it. Not just because. Don't be blinded by the double game weeks. That's all I'd say.
And tell us, quick answer on this one. Who would be your best or safest Man City defenders? Are there any of them that you're considering worthwhile?
Do you know I'd look at when he comes back? Mendy, because he'll play every game.
Yeah, when he does come back, I haven't heard any update on him. But
quick one on Man City. Just watch what happens and when they win the league. Because once they win the league against United, I can see rotation. Then Danilo becomes an option. He's 5 mil. And I can see him playing in the league. So he's the cheapest.
Good point, yeah, good point. And he's a good attacking player as well, yeah. Brilliant stuff, fellas. That's the end of our listener question section. So we'll move on to our Barlow and Baldwin captain picks. You know the drill. Looking at your own team, I'll come to our guest coach first. So looking at your own team, who are you going to be picking if you want to make the conservative choice? That's the Barlow. And who are you going to go for if you're feeling frisky? That's our Baldwin captain pick.
I'm always feeling frisky, so
all the girls are quaking at that one, Coach.
Oh, no, don't say that. I'm married. Right, no. So I've already got Aubameyang, so I did the transfer early to avoid the price rise. So Josh King went out and Aubameyang came in. So they've got Stoke at home, so I'm going to be captaining Aubameyang. Look at my team, maybe probably Marz as the Baldwin pick. Marz, Baldwin.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, why not? And Marz, come to you next. Who's your Barlow and who's your Baldwin?
I agree with Coach on the Barlow. Boomerang has got a really good fixture. If you don't want to go Salah, of course. And my Baldwin is Kennedy against Huddersfield at home, if you're feeling really frisky.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into a bit of stats for this Kennedy chap.
Ask our third Amigo what happened when he put him on the bench last week.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, we've agreed not to speak on that one anymore. Dale, who are you going to go for, Barlow and Baldwin?
Barlow, yeah, I agree with the lads. Aubameyang. Baldwin, I'll go with Son because I'm bringing him in. And I might actually captain him.
Yeah, I think we better check the spices that are in your press, Dale, if you went with Son as your captain.
You know, the funny thing is, Dale, I'm actually thinking of benching him. I've got in my team right now, I'm looking at it, 3-4-3, and I've put Kennedy ahead of Son because it's between Son and Willian and who goes on the bench. You're screwing with my head.
I was talking with Fi in DM, right, about Son, and he sent me one of his tweets, and it showed you to the day that Harry Kane got injured, and then Son came in and just had a stormer, and it's the exact same thing. And I just, do you know what? My season's over, so I may as well just have a gamble.
Yeah, I'm not going to. No, I wouldn't captain him, but I'm not going to bench him. I'm leaving him on my team, definitely.
He's my first sub at the moment unless I change my mind and I go with a cheaper third forward.
It'll be an interesting chat next week, lads, when we're talking about it. Lovely stuff. I'll probably I'm going with Aubameyang as you mentioned as well. I just have to get him in. It'll be for a hit, so I'll hopefully capitalise on that. Of course, Lukaku versus Swansea. Some people would probably be considering him if they're after bringing him in as well. But yeah, there's a few nice enough fixtures this game week. But Aubameyang would be my one. And as far as my risky one, I can't really put Salah down as a risky pick, but I'll put Bobby Firmino down as my risky one against Crystal Palace. I'll take great pleasure if they gave that Wally Hodgson, if they gave him a nice tanking at the weekend.
I'm genuinely worried about that game Well, genuinely worried, probably as much as the derby, just because I hate Palace away. And they suddenly they've just found form at the right time as well. We should be winning that game, but let's see.
Yeah, hopefully I am right and it's a Tonkin and your worry is undeserved.
I hope so. Can I just give I noticed one thing for game week 32, because it's after the internationals and people might be worried about players being rested at benching. All the South American players, Asians, so thinking about Son, Key, etc., they're all playing in Europe. So this week, this international break, we don't have to worry about them coming back from long distances.
Brilliant stuff, fellas. That's all we got time for tonight on the Three Amigos FPL show. Thanks a million to this week's honorary amigo, the FPL coach, who you all, of course, follow at FPLCoach. Thank to you all for listening, sharing and liking the pod. And get following our group Twitter account at 3 Amigos FPL, Marz at Marz05, Dale at Chef Dale H, and myself at FPL Marco. Of course, our usual request is the Reddit community. When you do see our podcast in the lineup there, please do give us an upvote. Thanks a million for listening. Booyah.
One for each other and all for one. The three brave amigos are we. Brother to brother and everyone, a brave amigo.